the International Association of Coaching. Home of the Coaching Masteries.
Welcome, everyone. And before we start, I would like to take a minute of your time, no more than that, to give a couple of announcements. The first one is to let you know that please be out and looking out for emails that we have been sending this week, and we're going to be sending during probably the entire year. So make sure that you're getting our emails, because there's a lot of important and interesting information there to keep you engaged with us at IAC. And also let you know that many of you know Marcela Bermudez, who has been a great help with Experience the Coaching Masteries and even with Reading Circle. She's definitely I don't know, someone with a lot of experience in this type of events. And she and Sarah Rajendran. I said it correctly?
Yes.
Thank you. So
Yes,
Sarah will
correct.
be joining the events committee as well, along with Marcela. The idea is to have events committees from each region. So saying this, I want to let you know that if there's anyone else that would like to join the events committee, remember you can write to volunteer email. It's in the webpage, volunteer@certifiedcoach.org. Send us an email and you can join this wonderful team that Sarah and Marcela are doing to bring all the events to you this year. So with that, I want to leave you with Marcela, who is being your host today. Marcela, thank you.
Muchas gracias, Ingrid. Un
Thank you very
saludo
much, Ingrid.
especial para todos ustedes.
Special greetings
Bienvenidos
to all of
a
you
este
here.
espacio de
Welcome
Learning
to
Circle
this
2026,
Learning Space
cuyo nombre es
2026,
Leadership Perspective of Coaching.
which
En este
is
momento
named
y en el
Leadership
día de
Perspective
hoy
of
nos
Coaching right now.
acompañan dos
And today we are
ponentes que
joined by
son
two
Niurka
presenters who are
Arévalo y
Niurka
Brian
Arévalo
French.
and Brian
Cada
French.
uno de ellos va a
Each
hacer
one
su
of them
exposición
will
sobre su tema
be
específico.
talking
En
about
este
their
momento les
pertaining
presento a
topic.
Niurka
At this
Arévalo.
point, I'll
Niurka
introduce
Arévalo nos
Niurka
compartirá el
Arévalo,
tema
who
de
will be
liderazgo
talking to us about
regenerativo y nos
regenerative
invita a
leadership and
preguntarnos
invites us
desde
to
dónde
ask
nos
ourselves,
ubicamos,
from where
desde qué
do
estado
we see
interno
ourselves,
decidimos y
from
a
which
quiénes
internal
estamos
state do we
sirviendo
decide, and
realmente.
who are we truly
Niurka es
serving?
coach profesional,
Niurka is
Masteries
a
Practitioner
professional coach,
y
a
mentora
Masteries
en
practitioner,
liderazgo
and
sostenible.
mentor in sustainable
Desde
leadership.
hace 18 años acompaña
For
a
18
líderes y
years now, she's
equipos
been
con una mirada
accompanying
clara
leaders
que
and
hoy
teams
exige
with a clear
conciencia,
perspective that currently
coherencia
requires
y acción alineada al
consciousness,
propósito.
coherence, and
Bienvenida, Niurka
action aligned to
Arévalo.
purpose.
Este es
Welcome,
tu
Niurka Arévalo.
espacio.
This is your space.
Muchas
Marcela,
gracias.
Thank you very much.
gracias por tan cálida bienvenida.
Thank
Me
you,
siento
and thank you for
honrada de
this
poder
warm
estar en este
welcome. I
espacio,
feel very honored of
compartiendo
being in
con
this
toda la
space,
familia
sharing
IAC.
with all of the
Siempre he
IAC
sentido este
family.
lugar como mi casa, así es
I
que me
have
siento
always
muy,
felt this
muy
place as
feliz de
my
poder
home,
compartir este
so I
espacio.
feel very happy of being able
Y me
to
gustaría
share this
empezar
space.
haciendo una pregunta.
I would like to start
Traigo a la
by
mesa
asking a
liderazgo
question.
regenerativo. Sin embargo,
I
vamos a
bring to the
dejar unas
table
cosas claras. ¿Alguien
regenerative
se acuerda
leadership.
todo lo que ha hecho el año
Now,
pasado?
does anyone remember
¿Podría
everything they did
empezar a
last year?
enumerar lo que ha hecho el año
Could you
pasado?
start listing what you did last year?
Con esta intención de poder recordar
With this
todo lo que estamos
intention of
viviendo,
trying to remember
o
everything
suele
that we're
quedar en
living,
tácito esta
there
frase.
usually
Cuando tenga
implicit this phrase.
Hacemos el recuento de
When I
nuestro
have some
año
time,
y muchos de estos
we
pasajes a lo
recount
largo
our
del
year,
año
and many of these
se han quedado
passages
con
throughout
esta
the year
perspectiva. Cuando
are
tenga
left with
tiempo voy
this
a atender mis
perspective.
emociones. Cuando
When I
tenga
have
tiempo voy
time,
a
I'll
llamar a
go
ese
over
ser
my
querido. Cuando
emotions.
tenga
I'm
tiempo
gonna
voy a
call this
disfrutar
loved
de
one
mi
when I have some
relajación.
time.
Cuando
I'll
tenga
enjoy what
tiempo,
I
y
like to
el
do when
tiempo
I
es
have some
relativo,
time.
el tiempo
When I
es una
have time,
ilusión.
and
Y
time
muchas
is
veces
relative.
ese
It's an
tiempo
illusion,
no
and very
llega.
often
Yo conozco muchas
that time doesn't
personas con
come.
esa ilusión del
I know
tiempo
many people that with this
para aquellas personas, sobre todo que trabajamos
illusion of
en el
time,
sector de
for
salud.
those of us that accompany the
Sabemos que hay
healthcare
personas que no despiertan.
sector, we know that there's
Indistintamente la
people
edad.
that don't wake up.
Y nosotros seguimos pensando que cuando
And
tenga
we
tiempo
continue
me voy a dar
thinking
un
that when
espacio
I
para
get some
mirarme.
time, I'm going to get some space to look at
Entonces, uno de los
myself.
puntos que nos
So one of the
propone esta
points that
mirada de
this
lo
perspective
sostenible, de
proposes
sostener
of
las
sustaining
organizaciones, a nuestros equipos, a
organizations,
las
our
personas que nos
teams,
rodean,
people that
es
are
la
around us,
posibilidad de empezar a
is this
regenerar,
possibility of starting to
reconociendo
regenerate,
que nuestras organizaciones
recognizing
somos,
that our
somos
organizations, us,
ecosistemas vivos.
we are
De
living
esta posibilidad,
ecosystems.
esta
From that
invitación a traer una
possibility, this
perspectiva del
invitation
tiempo
to bring
es a
in the
devolvernos la
perspective of time is to
responsabilidad de qué
give
queremos
us back
hacer
that
con nuestras
responsibility
vidas,
of
con
what
esta
we want to
única
do
vida
with
que
our
tenemos.
lives, with this one
Y
life that we
desde
are
esa
given.
mirada,
And
abrir
from
la
that
invitación
perspective,
para empezar a mirar
I open
estas
the invitation to
dimensiones que
start
tenemos como seres
looking at
humanos
those
y que
dimensions
muchas
that we
veces
have as human
practicamos
beings, and that
fácil,
very often we live them
abordamos
implicit.
muchas de ellas
We
de manera
approach many of
espontánea,
them
pero quizás
spontaneously,
esta sea la oportunidad
but
de
perhaps
poder
this is
abordarlo
the
con mayor
opportunity to be able
conciencia.
to look at it
En principio,
with more
reconociendo
awareness.
esta dimensión emocional que
Initially
nos
understanding
constituye.
or recognizing
Si
this
bien es cierto,
emotional
somos seres
perspective that
emocionales,
makes us up.
¿qué de
Even
estas
though we are
emociones
emotional
junto con
beings,
las que
which of
convivo
these
he
emotions
empezado a
that I
normalizar?
cohabit with,
Solemos
I have
normalizar
started
ver el vaso
normalizing.
medio
We
vacío,
normalize seeing the
sentir que nunca es
glass half empty,
suficiente, sentir que por más que
feeling
avanzo
that's never
no
enough,
logro
that no
sentir
matter how much I
satisfacción,
progress, I
sentir
am not
culpa,
satisfied,
sentir
feeling
resentimiento,
guilty,
mirar al
feeling
costado y
resentment,
transitar entre
looking
esta especie
to
de
your side
comparación.
and traverse
Desde
this
esa
sort of
perspectiva hay un
comparison.
acto de violencia contra mí.
And from that perspective, there's an
Seguimos
act of
caminando
violence
en
against
nuestro mundo
myself.
emocional
We
y
continue
podemos darnos
walking in
cuenta
an
que muchas de
our
estas
emotional
emociones que no
world,
nos
and we can
convienen
realize that
las
some of
hemos
those emotions
normalizado
that
en
are not
nuestra
good for us,
cotidianidad.
we've normalized in
Desde
our day
esa
to day.
posibilidad, claro,
From
yo
that
lo he
possibility,
podido evidenciar a lo
and
largo
I've
de
been
los
able to
procesos de
evidence this throughout
acompañamiento,
the
sobre todo
accompaniment
a
processes,
este grupo de personas que
particularly
están
for this
transitando
group of people
enfermedades
that are
terminales.
traversing
Las
terminal
emociones con las que han
diseases.
convivido
The
un año,
emotions that
dos,
they
10,
live
20,
with for 1 year, 2,
la
10,
tristeza,
20,
el resentimiento, la
sadness,
culpa,
resentment,
el deseo de
guilt,
venganza,
that desire for revenge,
todo eso que abrazan en su
all of
corazón,
that they embrace in
el
their hearts.
cuerpo se
The
resiente,
body
el cuerpo somatiza,
resents
el
it.
cuerpo
It
enferma.
somatizes them. The body gets
Por
sick.
eso que esta perspectiva del
And that's why
tiempo,
this
cuando nosotros no
perspective of
asumimos
time,
la
when we don't
responsabilidad
assume the
de esta
responsibility
dimensión emocional que
of
nos
this
constituye
emotional
y
dimension
no
that constitutes
reconocemos que esa
us,
dimensión,
and we don't
si
recognize
bien es
that this
cierto, somos
dimension,
seres emocionales,
even though we're
las
emotional
emociones duran
beings,
90
but
segundos, luego
emotions
pasan a
last
la mente.
90 seconds, then they move
Activar
to
y
our
activar
minds.
una memoria emocional donde yo suelo perderme.
Activating it, triggering an
Por eso
emotional
es que
response
después
where
dura
I
mucho más
tend to
tiempo,
lose
hasta
myself. That's why
formar
they
parte
last
de mis
longer
hábitos
until it
emocionales
becomes
que
part
sin
of
querer
my
queriendo he
emotional habits
normalizado.
that I've
Desde ahí
normalized
hoy
without
tengo la
wanting to.
posibilidad
From there, I
de
have the possibility now
tomar
of
esta mirada
taking
que nos
this
regala la
perspective
neurociencia,
that
reconocer que
neuroscience
nuestro
gives
cerebro
us
es
to recognize
plástico,
that our brain
que
is
nosotros podemos
uh,
diseñar nuestra
has
experiencia
plasticity,
emocional
that we can
de
design our
manera
emotional
intencional,
experience
quiere decir empezar
intentionally,
a crear
meaning
nuevos hábitos
starting to
emocionales
create
que
new
nos
emotional
corresponden.
habits that
Si
are
hemos
good for us.
normalizado habitar
If we've
en ver que nunca
normalized
es suficiente,
inhabiting and seeing that it's never
empezar
enough,
a invitar a mi vida la
starting to
gratitud,
invite into
la
my life
esperanza, la
gratitude,
bondad, la
hope,
fe, la
kindness,
alegría,
faith,
el disfrute.
joy,
Pero esto es un trabajo
enjoyment. But
que nos
this
toca hacer a nosotros,
is work that we need to do,
reconociéndonos como seres humanos. No somos
recognizing ourselves
perfectos,
as
pero
human
lo
beings. We're
podemos
not
hacer
perfect, but
mejor.
we can do it better.
Y esta mirada nos invita a regenerar, a
And this
resignificar
perspective invites us
en
to
principio la
regenerate,
relación
to
con
give new
nosotros
meaning.
mismos. Porque la
Initially,
calidad
that
del
relationship with
acompañamiento
ourselves, because reality and
depende
accompaniment that depends on the internal status of that he who is accompanying. And from that possibility, looking at ourselves as human beings as a whole, we have those capacities, and if we don't look for them, we look for collaboration. So from that place, loving and compassionate to what constitutes me in the emotional world, we're going to go back a little bit and say 1,000 years to our childhood. We started to traverse these emotions that started maturing, and we were normalizing. We started learning. If our environment, there was a lot of sadness, probably we perceive that as normal. And we tend to live in sadness without realizing it, without taking responsibility of starting to manage these emotions. Emotions are not controlled. Emotions, this dimension that could be regenerative within this context, if you give it a space to look at them, to recognize where they come from, where they were born, recognize the origin. So from that recognition, I can start giving new meaning to my relations, my internal dialogue. And once I'm able to become aware of that internal dialogue, taking awareness of the way that I speak to myself, if I'm kind, if I'm compassionate, if I'm loving, same thing will be reflected in my leadership. This impromptu that goes outwards has to deal with me, and this has nothing to do with what I'm traversing through, the most complex thing. I can choose. Stop normalizing, resting my emotional responsibility in what it's external, taking charge of that emotional world, discovering these patterns, giving new meaning, and taking responsibility of inhabiting consciously new emotional habits that allow me to live in well-being. Then we move to this dimension that also constitutes us and it's fundamental. I had mentioned that if it's 90 seconds that the emotion lasts, and then it moves to the thoughts to trigger an emotional response, how can I take charge and be responsible of my mind, of what I think, of what I'm paying attention to, what I'm focusing on? If I have thought habits as well. From here, I have this enormous responsibility of recognizing that our minds is like fertile ground. All those external stimulus will impact the way in which I start building my world of thoughts. Again, the invitation from there is to become responsible for how we are taking care of and planting those little seeds in our mind. So later that is evidenced in my behavior. Our emotional world, our mental world, and the responsibility that we have to take charge of those thoughts. But all of us here, at least the ones of us that are parents especially, and we have children, when we perhaps don't have or have normalized at a point we don't receive, they go out at night and we don't receive a message from them, our mind starts creating this movie, and that story that we create in our minds puts us away from well-being. Chemically, we trigger one of the hormones of stress, which is cortisol, just for that thought. Cortisol usually takes 4 to 6 hours to exit the body. And going back to this example of women that traverse through these terminal diseases, sustaining your body in alert status for a long time, it stops cellular regeneration. It triggers aging. More than 82%, according to World Health Organization, have a burnout syndrome. This emotional exhaustion, this lack of sense where they even start feel like they lose a sense of being, because we're not looking at ourselves. We're not taking care of ourselves. We're not looking at what's impacting us and our teams. We normalize, we step on the gas pedal and normalize with this idea of no productivity, numbers, and we don't stop to see and take care of our people. So again, taking responsibility that we have as leaders of being able to regenerate these dimensions, emotional, mentally, to later inhabit the body with more awareness. The body is the truth, and the body starts manifesting this somatization mentally, emotionally, this exhaustion. And people with autoimmune diseases start appearing where they don't have a diagnosis that's specific. An opportunity again to become aware. This vase that our body is alone. It's finite. We need to take care of it. Initially, inhabiting our skin comfortably, taking care of ourselves, taking charge, making ourselves responsible, taking our adult and stop normalizing the symptom. My head aches. I have backache. The symptom is linked to awareness. And from there, I can hear my body to then again start regenerating my internal systems and inhabit myself more consciously, and then have the possibility of being able to inhabit this spiritual dimension. It's not about religions, it's about being a good human being. What do I do with everything that's come to me as a gift, with the knowledge, with the systems that surround me? I tend to say we shouldn't die with our music inside. We need to share, collaborate, co-create spaces that allow to regenerate these human relationships, to see an emergence of another human being that's better, so our organizations can flourish from the responsibility, from awareness. And across sections, and I say this could be a great tool, is coaching, because to make all of this that I've shared real, we need to have valuable conversations that are upheld in awareness, responsibility, and action. And again, I want to remind you of this phrase with which I started, that the quality of our company, and that depends the quality of our internal state. Thank you, Marcela. Thank you, IAC, for allowing me to share this perspective of regenerative. Thank you very much, Niurka. Really, you invite us to reflect, like you say, of that emotional aspect that comes from us from when we're small. It's something that we should look at now as an adult and know which of those emotions hurt us. And as you were saying, cortisol is something that's within our body and that makes us or triggers an alert for us to have that possibility of giving new meaning to our emotions. And also not only for our emotional world, but for that world of leadership. So we thank you, Niurka, because we take away a lot of reflection, of taking care of ourselves, of loving ourselves in the sense of hearing all of our, to hear those things that hurt us, and that which hurt us, we could put it differently in our lives. So we, for ourselves and for others. Thank you very much, Niurka. And now we're going to open a space for Brian French. And I'm going to give you a small summary of Brian. Brian Brian French is an author of Harmony Leadership Providence Coaching. His purpose in life is to create more harmony in the world so each person feels fully valued, motivated, and taken care of. He's a philosopher focused on creating environments that are positive, where people can get inspired to reach their purpose for life. With his groups, his collaborative focus focused on how to work together to look for a common well-being. So Brian, welcome to this space, and the mic is yours.
Gracias. Thank you, everyone. And thanks to Niurka for sharing your wisdom with us. Very, very impactful. And I love the focus on the mind and the emotions. As we work with leaders, we have that opportunity to help leaders understand these components, which help them to be more emotionally intelligent leaders, which makes their team members stronger, makes the team itself stronger. So as Niurka started with a question, I'll start with a question as well. As coaches, this is what we specialize in, asking those questions that invite the deeper consideration. So Niurka asked us to look back at last year. I'll ask us to look forward. How do you want to develop yourself in the coming year? You don't have to type it in, just reflect on it. How do you want to develop yourself in the coming year? As I work with leaders in the work that I do as a learning and development director in my current role and throughout my career, fairly long career at this point, I have worked with leaders to ask them to ask these kinds of questions of their team members. Not telling them, asking them, and changing that mindset from more of a management line mindset of these are the tasks, this is how you do the task, to the leadership mindset of how do you feel is the best way to do the task, turning things into questions, developing that coaching skill as a leader for your team members so that they can become who they want to be and the best that they can be. So a little bit about my background. I've been teaching leadership and management programs for 30 plus years in education and large corporate environments as an independent coach and consultant, as working with a major leadership coaching firm, and currently as director of leadership development for a company called Trintech, about a 600-person company that has global reach. We have a number of offices around the world. My formative years were spent at Verizon, which is one of the largest telecommunication companies here in the States. It's a Fortune 20 company where I led the global leadership development programs. And through those years, I also led the performance management process as well. And through all these years, I've taught a lot of different coaching models to people leaders to help them equip them to coach their employees. Some of those models have been from third-party content. Lately, I've been using my own models that I created within my book, Harmonic Leadership. Back when I was at Verizon and I did manage the performance management process, a lot of the focus was on obviously the performance coaching. You know, we have many different flavors of coaching, performance coaching being one of the main flavors. And when I started my career 30 plus years ago, that was the main focus for teaching leaders, equipping leaders to do performance-based coaching of their employees. And we would ensure that through the goal setting process, through the performance review process, things were done within that coaching mindset. But I have noticed an evolution from performance coaching to developmental coaching, from work-based developmental coaching to whole person developmental coaching. And this ties in wonderfully with what Niurka was sharing, understanding the emotional concepts of your team members, emotional framework of your team members makes you such a more important leader and effective leader as well. So what I now work with leaders on is looking past the simple performance coaching to building that deeper understanding of how coaching the whole person leads to stronger performance ultimately. And it also leads to a happier team member who has a sense of purpose in their work, who is motivated, who is inspired to be all that they can be. And a lot of this comes from reframing from that management mindset to the leadership mindset. Leader focuses on developing their team members, and this is done through that coaching mindset, asking instead of telling, inviting instead of assuming, empowering instead of directing. And a lot of this is incorporated into my book that Marcella mentioned. I'll hold it up here for you. Harmonic Leadership, Leading with Inclusive Mindful Caring, where every person feels fully valued, fully motivated, and fully cared for. Every person feels fully valued, fully motivated, and fully cared for. Just imagine being in that kind of environment every day. We all deserve to be, but I've worked with leaders throughout the world for all of these years, and sadly, very few people, when I ask the question in sessions, raise your hand. Have you been in that kind of environment before? Very few people raise their hand. And many who do, they kind of half raise it, and I'll ask them to explain, and they'll say, well, I have in the past, but currently no. Very, very few people actually raise their hand fully, confidently, and say, I'm in that situation right now where my work environment is positive, it's life-giving instead of life-draining, and I feel fully valued, fully motivated, and fully cared for. So as Marcella said, my purpose in life is to create more harmony in the world, and harmony encompasses that feeling of caring for others and changing the mindset from just getting the work done to caring about the people who are doing the work within your organizations. And while I don't specifically teach my leaders the IAC coaching masteries, the principles of the masteries are embedded in my work. And I've done some mapping behind the scenes of the masteries to the various content pieces in the book and what I share with leaders in my facilitation and my coaching, so I could keep them in mind, the masteries in mind, as I work with leaders. And I can feel comfortable that they are building coaching skills that are linked to our wonderful coaching masteries. I will give you the offer of downloading the book. I give the book away freely. I'll put the link into the chat box. When I first wrote the book and published it a number of years ago, I did sell it through the traditional channels, but decided to just give the book away. I just want people to have the information. As coaches, it is a great resource for coaching. There's so many assessments, so many self-reflection activities that you can use in your coaching practice to invite leaders to think about these deeper questions in how they are leading their team members. And individually, I mean, it helps me as well. It's most of the assessments I built through the years and self-reflection activities I built through the years, and I still reflect on them as I work with leaders and go through assessments with them. And it helps me to be a better coach and hopefully a better person as well. So when you go through the book, hopefully you'll find a number of concepts that help you to help your leaders to embrace these concepts of coaching the whole person. A number of the concepts are deeply meaningful to me. Hopefully they are to the people I work with as well and the leaders that I teach. And there's some themes that I bring back and ask people to reflect on as we're going through programs where we're using the book. So internally at Trintech, I use the book within our Gear Leadership program, which all of the people leaders around the world are a part of. I also still do some teaching on the side and coaching on the side where I use the book with leaders as well. Some of the key concepts are positivity breeds positivity. If we come as a positive leader, it invites our team to be positive as well, versus negativity breeds negativity. If we show up as a negative leader, it can cause our team members to be negative as well, and creates or causes a very negative environment for our team members. Another concept is life-giving versus life-draining. If we as leaders can strive to create a life-giving environment where when people show up in the morning, they're eager to work together to do the work of the organization, and not cause those elements that can lead to a life-draining environment where at the end of the day, people are just drained and they go home and it affects their personal life as well. So focusing on that creating of a life-giving environment is a key concept that I ask my leaders to reflect on as we're going through our leadership programs and our leadership coaching. Another concept is balanced mindful caring, and that is caring for, I'll hold up the simple little model here. You'll find it in the book if you choose to download it. Caring for the others, that's the other individuals, placing that focused energy that you bring to your work and to your life on caring for other individuals. Next is caring for the group. Focused energy on caring for all of our group affiliations. That's both inside work and outside work. Next is caring for the work itself, focused energy on carrying on the important work, and I qualify it as the important work that needs to be done. And then lastly is caring for the self, focused energy on caring for the needs of the self. And when I share this concept with leaders and reflect back on it, I ask leaders to consider, where are you placing most of your focused energy right now? And invariably, most people say caring for the work. And we talk about the ramifications of that. And then I ask leaders of teams to say, where do you think your employees, your team members are placing most of their focused energy? And they come to the realization, for the most part, that it's caring for the work. And we have the conversation of what is being lost in that focus so heavily on the work. We're losing the balance. And most people agree that caring for the self is the quadrant that is the least focused upon, placing the least amount of focused energy. So I know that we're about out of time, so I'll go ahead and yield the floor. But thank you for listening. Thank you for exploring some of the concepts that I share with leaders around the world. And I invite you to download the book and reach out if you have any questions about how we can use this work within our coaching practice to create an even stronger leadership focus and leadership acts of caring around the world. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias, Brian, por
Thank
esto que
you
nos
very, very much, Brian,
compartiste.
for this which you
Muchas
shared
gracias
with us.
también por
Thank you
darnos y
also for
regalarnos este libro tan
gifting us this
espectacular que vamos a
spectacular book
leerlo
that
y
we're going
vamos
to
a
read
tenerlo en cuenta.
and we're going to
Y
keep in
también
mind
por esas
always. And
reflexiones que nos
also for
llevas
those
al
reflections
el
that
cambio
you
que ha
take
habido en
us
el
to
liderazgo de
that
hace un
change that has
tiempo,
happened in
desde hace
leadership
30
from
años que tú
some 30
empezaste a
years that you
trabajar
started
dando
working
líderes
with
a este
leaders
momento.
to
Y
this
este
point.
momento lo más
And
importante
this
es que
point, the most
vamos al
important
ser
thing is
humano,
that
no
we're
tanto a la tarea,
moving towards the
sino
human
a
being, not that much for
preguntarle
the
a
task,
nuestros líderes y a
but
nuestros
asking our
trabajadores
leaders and our
cómo te encuentras
workers,
hoy, cómo
how are
estás,
you
y
today?
hacer un buen
How are
ambiente
you
para
doing?
cada
And
día,
create a good
porque
environment
eso
for
nos
every
hemos
day
olvidado.
because we've
Se nos
forgotten about that.
olvida que
We
el ser
forget
humano
that
es lo más
the human being
importante
is the most
y que si tú
important.
llegas bien a tu
And if
trabajo,
you arrive
y
well
que
to
si
your
eres
work,
reconocido por
and
tu
if you're
jefe y
recognized
que si
by
te
your
pregunta
by
cómo
your leader,
estás, eso
and if they
ya
ask you how you're
es
doing, that
solamente
in
un
itself
saludo
is uh,
que la gente
a
se
greeting
siente
that
conmovida
people feel
porque te has
moved
tenido en
because
cuenta. Entonces
they're taken
siento
into
que
account.
esto
So
que
I
nos
feel
has
that
compartido es muy
this that you've
importante.
shared is very
Irnos al ser
important.
humano más
Going
que
back
al
to
hacer.
human
Eso
beings,
no significa
more than
pues que
to
tengan
the
que hacer sus
doing.
tareas y
This
cumplir
doesn't
sus
focus that you don't
objetivos,
need to do
pero
your
pienso que
task
en este
and
momento
fulfill your
la
objectives, but I think
verdad
that right
es
now
la conexión con el ser
reality
humano
is
y
the
muchísimas
this
gracias,
connection with
Brian.
human beings.
Muchas
So thank you
gracias
very
por
much,
este
Brian.
espacio.
Thank you very much
Muchísimas
for this
gracias
space.
nuevamente por
Thank you
este
very much
libro que nos
again for this
regalas, que
book
fue,
that you've
que creo
gifted
que va a ser
us, which I
maravilloso
believe will
poderlo
be
leer.
wonderful
Y
to be able
ahora
to read it.
queremos invitar a la
And now we
audiencia,
want
ya
to
que
invite
tenemos
our
aquí
audience,
muchas
since we
personas
have
acá
a lot of
en
people
este
here
espacio, que
in
se
this
animen a
space,
preguntarle
that
tanto a Niurka como a Brian
can ask both
algo
Niurka
que
and
ustedes
Brian
tengan alguna inquietud
something
o que
that you
tengan
have
algo
any
para
doubt
preguntar.
about or any
Entonces, por
comments you
favor,
want to
el que
add. So
quiera,
please,
antes vamos a
anyone who
tener un
wishes
espacio
to, we're going to
aproximadamente
have
de
a
5
space
minutos
for
en
about
este
5 minutes.
espacio. El que quiera puede levantar la
Whoever
mano
wants
y preguntar
to
o
ask,
abrir su micrófono.
you can raise your
Gracias.
hand or open your microphone. Thank you.
Y aprovechemos los minutos porque los minutos
And
son
let's
oro.
take advantage of these
Para que
minutes
por
because
favor
time is
alguien pregunte
gold.
a
So
Niurka o a
uh,
Brian, a
anyone
cualquiera
can
de
ask
los
Niurka or
dos.
Brian, either or.
So I just placed a couple questions, one for Brian and one for Niurka. So for Brian, what is the difference between caring for others and caring for the group? I wasn't And yeah, so let's start there and then
Start
I'll
there.
ask
Okay.
Niurka.
Thanks, Ingrid. Yeah, it's thanks for the question. So, in the model that I shared earlier, caring for others as individuals. So we have individuals in our personal life. We have individuals in our work life. It's differentiated between caring for the group in that caring for the group is the group affiliation. So using myself as an example, I'm on the board of governors of the IAC. The board of governors is a group that I care for with the time and energy that I exert and spend. But within the Board of Governors, I care individually for Ingrid. I care individually for Catherine and Gillian and all of the other members of the board who are on with us today. So that is the difference. My focused energy is going to care for the group as well as each individual who I work with, both within groups and outside of the formalized groups. Hopefully that helps.
Thank you, Brian. And for Niurka, my question is how can we become aware of the repetitive thoughts that you mentioned?
Ingrid, gracias por tu pregunta. Y en definitiva, podemos darnos cuenta de esos
Thank
pensamientos
you for your
repetitivos
question,
a
Ingrid.
través de
And
una
we
sesión de
can
coaching. A través de una sesión
realize
de
those
coaching, el
repetitive thoughts
coach
through a
puede
coaching
tomar
session.
conciencia del
Through that
mapa
coaching
mental
session,
del
the
cliente
coaches
y poder
can become aware of that
clarificar hacia
mind
aquellos pensamientos
map
que
of
están siendo
the
repetitivos.
client
Gracias,
and
Ingrid.
seeing which of those thoughts are becoming repetitive.
Muchas
Gracias,
Thank you,
gracias,
Ingrid.
Niurka.
Gracias. Yo también te tengo una pregunta, Niurka.
Thank you. I also have
Cuéntanos
a question for
a
you,
la
Niurka. If you
audiencia
could
cómo
tell the
llegaste
audience here how
a darte
you
cuenta
got
de que
to
hay que
the point of realizing that
resignificar
you need to give new meaning
todas esas nuestras emociones y si
and
tuviste
all of
algún
those
momento
emotions
en
of
que eso se
ours,
hizo
and if you had a
presente.
moment where that really became
Muchas
present.
gracias, Marcela. El
Thank you
resignificar
very
para
much,
mí es una
Marcela.
palabra muy
Giving new
bonita
meaning for me,
porque nos
it's
permite entrar
a very
al
good
pasado, ya que lo que
idea
tiene que
because it invites you to go
resignificarse
to the
eran
past because what
experiencias
we need to give
pasadas
new meaning
y
to would
poder
be
empezar a
past
cambiar la
experiences
narrativa con la que nos
and starting to
contamos el
change that
cuento de
narrative
quienes
with
hemos
which we
sido,
tell our
de
story
qué es
of
lo que,
who we
de qué
have
es lo que nos
been,
constituye, de nuestra
of what
vida, de nuestras
makes
historias
us
y aquello
in
que
our
nosotros
lives, in our
podamos
stories, and
identificar
that
en
which we
esa
can
línea temporal
identify
donde
in
los
that
coaches
temporary
solemos
line where
preguntar
coaches
presente, pasado, futuro,
usually ask past, present,
reconociendo que
future,
ese futuro deseado se
recognizing
crea
that
en
that
este
desired
presente
future
continuo,
is created
reconocer
in this
también
continuous
de manera
present, and also
metafórica que el
recognizing
pasado no sanado es
metaphorically
presente y la
uh,
oportunidad que tenemos de
that
regresar esos
the
pasajes de nuestra vida
these
y empezar
passages
a darles
that come
otra
into our present
connotación,
and how we
una
can
más
give a new
amorosa, más compasiva,
meaning and a
abrazar todas
connotation that's
nuestras
more
historias con
compassionate,
todo
more
nuestro
loving, and
corazón,
embrace all of our
llenarla de amor
stories
y
with all of
compasión
our
y empezar
hearts,
a
filling it
narrar
with compassion
nuestras
and love,
propias
and start
experiencias
telling our
desde un
own
lugar más
experiences
consciente,
from a
donde
more
podamos tomar el
a
protagonismo
conscious
de nuestras
place
vidas y hacernos
when
cargo
we
de los
can
proyectos que
protagonize our
nos
lives and
ocurren.
take care of the coming
Muchas
chapters
gracias.
of our lives. Thank you, Marcela.
Muchísimas gracias, Niurka. Y invitamos a todos
Thank you
nuestros
very much, Niurka, and
compañeros
we
que son
invite all of our
coaches y que no
colleagues that
son
are
coaches.
coaches
Por
and
favor,
those that
una
aren't
pregunta y
coaches. Please,
aprovechemos
one
a
question, and
nuestros
let's
dos
really take
invitados,
advantage of our
Brian
two
y
guests, Brian and
Niurka.
Niurka.
Por favor, no dejen la timidez a un lado.
So don't be shy.
Yo quiero dar
Pueden
una
abrir
noticia.
micrófono.
Sí,
Ujú.
quiero
Sí,
sumar una noticia aprovechando que
I want
estamos
to add
todos
some
aquí
news
reunidos.
now that
En
we're all
marzo
together
voy a
here that in
lanzar mi
March,
segundo libro colaborativo
I'm
que
going to
se
launch
llama
my second collaborative
Felicidad
book that's called
Organizacional. Entonces, es
Organizational
una mirada
Happiness.
hacia cómo
So this
humanizar
is a
el
perspective of how
liderazgo
to
dentro de las
humanize leadership
organizaciones.
within
Bueno,
organizations. So
pronto van a tener
get
la
ready.
noticia.
You'll soon have that premise.
muchísimas gracias, Niurka. ¿Alguna persona que quiera hacer
Thank you very
alguna
much, Niurka.
pregunta a
Anyone that
Brian
wants
o a
to ask a
Niurka
question to Brian
antes de
or
cerrar?
Niurka before closing?
Y faltan las fotos, ahí les vamos a ir pidiendo
And we also
a
need to
todos que
take
vayan
pictures.
abriendo
I'm going to ask
cámaras para
everyone
tomar
to
las
open your
fotos.
cameras
Como
so we can
somos
take
varios,
pictures. Since
vamos a
we're
hacer varias
several of us, we
tomas.
need to take several pictures.
Carla nos tiene una pregunta aquí en el chat.
Carla
Tal
has
vez
a
hay una
question here in the chat.
es
She
para
says,
Niurka, tal vez hay una
for
herramienta
Niurka,
para ayudar a
maybe there's a
personas que
tool to
tengan
help people
pensamientos
that have
repetitivos en coaching.
repetitive thoughts in coaching.
Yo utilizo la línea de tiempo.
I use
Ahí
the
podríamos
timeline.
tomar en
There
consideración
we
que en otro
could
momento quizás
consider
habilitemos
at a different
espacio
point, we
para compartir
might open a
herramientas de
space to
coaching,
share
pero
coaching
la
tools,
línea del
but
tiempo me permite
in the
ir
timeline,
poniendo
it,
el
it
mapa
allows me
mental
to
del
set that
cliente para luego
uh,
poder
uh, mental map of my client to paraphrase that which they are sharing, and that I find the meaning not only of what it represents for us, this context or this word, but the significance which would have that emotional aspect for the person. And we could go deeper into this in literature of jazz Lacan. It's a little bit more dense, but that's something you can look into.
Muchísimas gracias, Niurka.
Thank you very much, Niurka.
Quisiéramos que si ya tomaron algunas
If
fotos, una
you've
última
taken
foto de
the
los
pictures,
grupos
one
para
last
que
picture of the
lo tengan,
groups,
y también decirles que estén
and
atentos
also
a los
let you
correos que
know that
nosotros
you
les
can
estaremos
be
mandando
paying attention to the emails that
invitaciones
will
e
be sending
información
you
para
invitations
nuestro
and
próximo
information
encuentro
for our
de
next
Learning Circles.
Learning
Gracias.
Circle
Definitivamente yo
meeting.
me voy con la idea entonces de que el próximo Learning
Definitely,
Circle va a
I
ser
take away
para
that the
compartir
next Learning
herramientas,
Circle would be
para
to share
share
tools.
tools, coaching tools. So Charlie is going to take the pictures. I'm going to take them too, just in case. So smile for a while. I'll let you know when I'm finished. So that's one. Hold on. We want to let you go. As you've seen, this year, the Learning Circle is, we're trying to make it 40 minutes so you can all go back to your daily things. However, as Niurka was mentioning before, we need to take care of ourselves and come in here half an hour to listen about leadership perspective from two great coaches and family members of IAC. It's part of that taking care of ourselves. So I just wanted to say that. Marcela, go ahead.
Muchísimas gracias. Muchísimas gracias a todos y por su
Thank you very much. Thank you very much,
atención,
everyone,
por
and
habernos
for your attention,
acompañado,
for
y los
having joined
esperamos
us.
en el
And we'll wait
próximo
for you
capítulo de
in our
Learning
next
Circle. Los
Learning Circle
estaremos
chapter.
avisando. Muchas
We'll be letting you know
gracias.
when that happens. Thank you very much.
The International Association of Coaching. Home of the Coaching Masteries.